Hello adventurers! Before we start this video, I want to give out a few warnings. We are going to go into Orion's character backstory, which will feature these heavy topics, or will touch on these heavy topics. So if it's something that triggers you, please, for your own safety, do not watch this video. I'll try to keep things light, but yeah, maybe some things are implied and I don't know if just implying things might trigger you, so treat this with a bit of caution. And of course, a second warning, this is non-scripted. So I will be rambling. I'll try to keep it as consistent as possible. Okay. Let's get into it. Let me introduce Orion to you. Orion is born to a family of mages, and he has some lore that I have to explain. Basically, in this world, they are the mages, people that are born with a natural affinity to the four elements, or the fifth thing. I'll elaborate later. Or you are born a non-magical, and the only way when you, as a non-magical, can cast magic and stuff is in becoming a wizard by using external magical forces or things that'll give you magical abilities for a bit, for a spell or something, sort of like components. That's the only way you can become a wizard, and it's rare. It's very expensive. Usually, not many people become wizards, so it's only mostly mages that use magic in their day-to-day life. Again, mages, the four elements, I think water, fire, earth, and air. That shouldn't be a secret, that are pretty self-explanatory. Though the fifth of them isn't really self-explanatory. They are usually called the summoner of the stars, because they deal with everything star-related, and yeah, night-related, moon-related, that kind of thing. So they always have this like aesthetic of stars, and yeah, and essentially, it is not only the stars, say, because in this world, when people pass away, they become essentially stars that sparkle in the sky, and it's it's this whole myth thingy. So star summoners essentially just take care of people's soul, and this is in actuality that what they have power over, so people's soul, and it is pretty much kept a secret for their own safety, because if people were to learn about their power over souls, that would get pretty dicey. So they are pretty secretive, pretty neutral usually. They just take care that the soul, once it has left its body, has no regrets, and they basically are just like you could kind of describe them as like yeah, travelers that bring souls to the other world or to the sky in that sense, and just help souls that have any regrets or anger or emotions left deal with them in a way that is healthy, and yeah, so yeah, sort of like shamans or something along the lines. And so Orion is actually born to a family of star summoners, and quite an old one at that. They are quite happy with each other. Like in any good story, you gotta have that happy family that is eventually ripped apart. And they spent their first years together. He learns everything. He is absolutely excited about it, and he loves using magic. Everything connected to it is just wow to him, and he learns treating everything with respect. Somewhere along the lines, he essentially, yeah, comes out and starts using he, him, or they, them pronouns. So any of those are fine. But yeah, otherwise, his life or their life is pretty chill and calming. Until there's more drama with the new king. Because the old king has passed, and the new king, who is much more ambitious, gets the crown. And so he essentially wants the Star Summoners to work under him, because he has actually somehow learned that Star Summoners are the most powerful of them, and that they have a way to essentially have power over souls and deal with souls and all that kind of stuff. And the king wants that for himself, because he thinks that that could make him immortal, and that's his ultimate goal, and to not die. So he does a lot of research into it and hires a lot of like wizards and stuff. But the Star Summoners do not want any part in this and are heavily against it. Until, yeah, some of them decide to flee the country because of the king's abrasive, hard and rash actions, and the slow and steady war that the king is approaching. Because most Star Summoners are definitely not a fan of war, very peaceful folk. And they see the dangers in this country, so they want to leave. But this causes a lot of problems for the king, so he says, if you're not gonna stay here, then I'm gonna, make you stay in another way. And we all can guess where this leads. So there's a lot of like hunts for Star Summoners. No one knows where they end up disappearing to. No one knows if they're alive at all. But there's one last raid that is very publicly made, and even the highest general partakes in it, or is forced to partake in it. We can talk about him in another video, because is also juicy with him. But let's just say he doesn't have much of a choice. And yeah, that last raid focuses on Orion's family, who have been deciding to stay because they love their country actually. And yeah, they know it's gonna be over for them. So in last effort, they try to get Orion out of there, the kids out of there as well. That fails. And eventually Orion is the only one living. He is brought as this yeah, show of peace, show of pride, that the king has now power over the Star Summoners and has overpowered them essentially. So so Orion is essentially brought into the castle and locked up for a while. The king is not sure what he really wants to do with Orion, so he tries everything in his power to try and talk him to joining him, but Orion is just done. He has seen his family pass away, and of course this is not gonna make him willing to do anything the king might wants to do. Which is for the king, of course, lying. And so he says, okay, if you are not gonna join me, you're gonna follow those before you, and threatens to execute him. So Orion, in his desperation, says, sure, why not? Execute me. Because the boy is depressed. He's very, very in this mindset of there is nothing good going to come, and he's just holding on to the belief that he might finally reunite with all that he loved. Once he finally reaches the end, he's pretty much at peace with that thought. And things end up differently though, and for some reason the king changes his mind. Essentially, wait, let's keep that a secret. But essentially, Orion is locked up in an old, empty star that had been gifted for the royal family ages ago. There's some myth going around that apparently the first ruler of the kingdom was gifted this star by the gods as a sign of goodwill and good fortune. Most people don't know that it actually exists and think it is a legend, but that changes after Orion gets locked up in that star, because the king decides to parade the star for years on end, with obviously Orion in it. Most people don't see Orion in that bit. The star itself is a pretty symbolism for the king's power over the whole folk of Star Summoners. And 20 years passes, a lot of change happens. The king achieves his goal of finding some sort of immortality. It has a price, but we didn't talk about it. Outer parts of the kingdom fall to ruin because there are monster attacks now, and some ghosts and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of like mages from or wizards, yeah, wizards from the king get deployed to like Elden. And it's gonna become important later. So keep that in mind. But one day the king wants to parade his little star again, because he does so every like quarter for good luck. And the star is missing. So the king realizes that the star has been stolen and who it has been stolen by. So he sends people after him. But what he doesn't know is that the star and Orion essentially ended up where the thief wanted the star to go. And then Orion was also freed somehow by the person that now owns the star. The thief sadly passed away due to the hunters like catching up, but the star essentially ended up in some trust with the hands. At least as far as the thief hopes, which turns out to be an old general of the king who has decided to, yeah, quit being the general and just decide, you know, I'm not going to do anything the king orders me because he's just done for some reason. Which, yeah. Orion turns out to know the guy personally, because this was the guy that had brought him in. And once he's freed, there's a bit of there's of course drama between the two. Because, yeah, the guy served under the king. Why in the hells should he be safe now with him? And, of course, confronts the guy about everything. And this is essentially what the story, the story of the two starts. Of him and Nikolai. And I won't go into much more spoilers than that, but essentially it's gonna be a lot of like regrets, a lot of like a lot of like figuring out how to go from here, figuring out what happened to the other Star Samlers, and how to deal with a world in which souls that have been that essentially have been yeah, destroyed due to there being no Star Summoner in the country anymore. And so souls who regrets have become monsters, and so they kinda have to figure out how to deal with that, otherwise the country will eventually be destroyed. And so there's this inner struggle in Orion as well, where he's like, this shouldn't be my problem anymore. I was locked away, my whole people are gone, I don't know what to do now. And there's a lot of struggles around that one. And around finding your place in a world where you think you might not belong. That kind of direction. It's a very hefty story because it involves very difficult topics and how to deal with them. But I hope that eventually Orion can find his place in our world, and that things that were done can, if not be undone, maybe that the regret of the Nikolai, so the general, the ex-general, can lead to a better world. So yeah, expect some ex-general goes against his own king and goes on a revolution to at least make the world a better place, when he didn't before. At least try to stand true to his word that he wants to change and wants to be better. And I think we're gonna talk about Nikolai in another video, because his story will be very, very difficult as well. There are of course some things that make this a bit more muddied, because I don't want Nikolai to like be straight up he has done his things, because I think this would be very, very difficult for the story to focus on and like deal with it. But yeah, just that Orion has some place of regret and evil deeds that he needs to face and needs to learn how to like deal with, and yeah, kind of learn how to be a better person, or like at least in some way make up for the things he didn't do and just watched. But again, this will probably be a lot like wake talking, because again, I'm gonna focus this on his own video. I think it is really important to do. So well, we'll see. We will see. Anyways, I think we're mostly done. I was gonna throw this a little quickly. Yeah. Thank you for listening into the video. I hope you enjoyed my 20 minutes of storytelling. I would love to do more of those. For example, I have this OC Catherine, who has been very old, and I recently turned him from fan OC to OC, so I might want to talk about him as well. Might do this recording in one sitting. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little story, and I hope we can catch each other. We can catch each other. We can catch each other next time. Bye bye.